Wow. Terrible, man.
Anger is erupting across the streets of the UK. And often the people we get the angriest with are the people who live closest to us.
We get angry for a cause because we become passionate. And passion is something that can sometimes feel confused with anger.
I will break your camera. Can you delete that?
Whether it's over rubbish, fences or noise.
Something angers me every day, and it is generally due to other people's conduct.
Disputes with neighbours are a key reason why we lose our rag.
Oh my days, do I like my neighbours? Some of them, some are damned annoying.
I hate my neighbours because they always play loud music in the early hours of the day.
There are quite a lot of people in the neighbourhood who seem to drink in the streets and just sit around on the pavement opposite my house.
I've probably been the annoying neighbour, to be honest.
No one's got respect, no one cares for each other. It's just a mad cycle of hate, innit?
An Englishman's home may be his castle, but often it's the areas around our houses which cause the biggest neighbourhood disputes. Alleyways, car parks and shared access areas cause huge conflicts because the people who think they own them don't like anyone else trespassing on them.
Get off my land!
This angry OAP doesn't want her neighbour walking on what she says is her drive.
Get off! Get off my land! I said off my land.
I have right of access.
You do not.
I do.
You do not.
I do.
You do not.
The psychology behind such a common phrase as "get off my land" is because to some extent this land is an extension of ourselves, that if you trespass on the land, you're somehow violating us or trespassing on our personal space. It is incredibly important for people to feel that they've got very clearly demarcated space.
Mechanic Luke Waugh knows all about disputed access. Every bin day, he has to move his wheelie bin across his neighbour's driveway, and this mundane chore has become the bane of his life.
When we first started at the garage, the flats next door weren't actually built, but after they were built and the new people moved in, we got on fine with everyone, apart from one of the neighbours.
You go.
This angry lady took particular umbrage at Luke's waste movements.
They decided that we weren't allowed to move the bin across the car park, and it was just a rule that they decided. As time went on, it just became more and more of an issue for them until they sort of got to the point of physical attack.
And one morning it was all caught on camera.
That day she was sitting in the car park reading the newspaper, which is not something she normally does, and it was as if she was waiting for me, and after about an hour or so I thought, well, she definitely is waiting for me, but I really have to put the bin away now. Eventually I had to brave it and do it, but I thought something might happen, which is why I said to my work colleague that he might want to grab his camera phone. She obviously came across to me and she tried to push the bin away, and then she started hitting me with her newspaper that she'd been reading. Well, obviously I was a little bit surprised at how full on the attack was. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. I sort of defended myself as much as you can against that.
I told you the other day.
The lady's husband was somewhere in between trying to stop her and then justifying what she was doing. I'm not really sure if he knew what to do either.
This is my drive, not yours.
He certainly couldn't stop his rampaging missus, who now had Luke trapped up against a wall.
She's like a bulldog. She's short and she's squat. So she's already got that kind of mentality.
I'm going to put my car back there.
Her focus is totally to do what she can to terrorise this bloke, and she's doing whatever she can to provoke him.
Because you'll have to take me to court, alright?
Carried on trying to move the bin for a little while, and then I decided it was probably best to give up and wait for things to calm down a little bit.
You were not bringing that over it. Full of oil.
Luke's friend and business partner, Perry Willings, filmed the whole event.
Right, Uncle, you do what you like, you little runt.
For a little while, I felt I should probably stop filming this and like sort of probably help a little bit, but then I decided it was much more entertaining to watch him get beat up by some old lady.
The issue here is that she switches. She goes from what we call the human thinking brain to the chimpanzees or the primate brain without any awareness of consequence, even considering that she was being videoed and that was evidence enough to see that she was physically violating this bloke.
Put my car in now.
With her attack over, the angry woman retreats.
Just about had enough of your crap.
But not before one final blast.
What do you think you're doing, eh? You little fart.
Yeah, until she come towards me, and I didn't really like that bit. That's when I got a bit scared and shut my phone off. I did get a couple of slight hits with the newspaper, but not quite as dramatic as Luke's attack, so to speak.
Despite Luke not wanting to take things further, once the attack was put online, it came to the attention of the boys in blue.
Right, Uncle, you do what you like, you little runt.
And the newspaper-wielding lady was cautioned for assault.
Bin Day was a day that I dreaded for a little while. I've sort of got used to it now. It's just part of my routine, keeping the eye out, just in case she's there lurking.
Coming up, the night when rioters filled the streets of London.
The anger that spread through the city was intense.
Oh my God.
A thuggish attack on a neighbour.
You kicked my door in.
And a man up to his neck in dog poo.
And it's absolutely bloody appalling, it is. It's beyond words.
Britain's angry and getting angrier. And we're catching it all on camera.
I don't know why you're coming. Why are you coming too close to me? Why? Do I know you? Do I know you? Why are you coming close to me? Why are you?
Just back up. Stay right there. Stop there. Back up there.
More and more things are making us cross, and this rage is spilling out onto the streets.
The reason what makes me angry around here is people got no manners.
Me personally, actually everyone will respect that, but when I'm walking down the road or something, you got people that are just barging into you, not even saying sorry, not even saying excuse me.
Just general awareness of what's going on around you. Like, and if you've got a child, people are barging your child. Just everyone's in their own little world and they just have no consideration outside their own bubble.
Like, you know, life is about respecting everyone. I try to respect people, so I expect the same back, innit?
Just being angry makes me angry.
Sometimes, though, when rage builds and grows across a wide area, the consequences can be catastrophic. In August 2011, anger exploded on the streets of London.
Mad scene.
4 years of recession, high youth unemployment and dissatisfaction with the system brought the capital to boiling point, and we captured it all on our camera phones.
Good luck, boys.
The spark which ignited the riots was the police shooting and killing of a man in Tottenham. And once the protests started, they spread like wildfire across the city.
Rage against authority can take many forms, and because we feel so powerless, it can take a form of a riot. Once a spark has been lit, it can flare up immediately into rioting.
Are you kidding me?
With police battling for control of the streets, angry protesters turned to violence and looting.
They're in the pub, they're taking all the alcohol.
The thing about being in a mob is we're looking at each other for each other's behaviour. It's like that pack mentality. It legitimises that kind of behaviour and it encourages it.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
Nathan Chaplin's fury at the police brought him out onto the streets of Ealing in West London.
Once I heard about the initial shooting in Tottenham, my feelings of anger and obviously and betrayal and aggression towards the police manifested, and I wanted to do something. Everyone was coming down curious to see exactly how it was looking, what was going on. I wasn't there to cause any trouble. These are my local shopkeepers. So for me, it was not about the rioting of shops. It was about confronting the police and trying to get to the bottom and try and get some things changed. But then during the course of the day, it just got mixed up. It got mixed up with those who wanted to change something to those who wanted to take something.
As day turned to night, the mood across the city turned darker as more people took to the streets. Furniture store owner Graham Reeves from Croydon had a feeling something was going to happen that evening.
In Croydon, it wasn't comfortable. You could feel it in the atmosphere. People seemed aggressive, and you can sense it when people are all agitated and difficult. Like you can sense when someone's happy or sad. You can tell by their body language. And it wasn't good in Croydon in August 2011.
Within hours of closing his shop, the main part of it was attacked, caught on camera by local resident Luke Gale.
Oh, this building's on fire here.
You know, and then that's when we saw House of Reeves. Someone clearly walked in there with a petrol bomb, whatever he had, and started that little fire.
What is wrong with people?
Anger can very quickly turn into destruction when people feel very helpless. They almost regress to childhood and they're smashing things up, much as a child will smash up its toys. Destroying something never actually stops the anger, but in that moment, it makes the person feel immensely powerful, particularly when previously they have felt incredibly impotent.
This is, Jesus Christ, this is absolutely crazy.
And it's amazing how quickly it all went up in flames. I mean, it must have been about 20 seconds between when that first started to when pretty much the whole of the first floor was in flames. It was amazing how quick the fire spreads.
Crazy, like proper. Wait, that's gonna burst through in a minute. I'll get away from it, man. This is absolutely crazy. What is wrong with people, man? This is just sick.
I think I was very angry about what was going on because the fact that it was your hometown, it just didn't make much sense to me why people were hitting their own areas.
Get out.
Bloody Nora.
Graham lost the main building of his furniture shop in a matter of hours.
Oh, crikey.
A business that's been in his family for over 150 years.
It's just blowing like mad. That's terrible footage, that is.
He watched his store burn down on the night, but has never seen the footage until now.
Things are coming down. I'll sod that, I ain't watching that.
Police couldn't guarantee that the rioters wouldn't attack the firefighters, so by the time they arrived, it was too late to save what was left of the building.
A terrible evening. Terrible.
And while the House of Reeves burned, the mobs continued rioting across London.
Holy cow.
They get caught up, consumed by this energetic, contagious effect of what's actually happening without any thought around consequences. And the other key piece here is that they are so adrenalized that at that point, there's no thinking involved. It's completely irrational.
I think the police were very much overwhelmed. They weren't expecting it, they weren't ready for it, they weren't prepared for it. The anger that spread through the city was intense. They weren't ready for it at all.
That's real.
People destroy their own neighbourhoods because they don't feel a sense of community in that neighbourhood, and therefore what they're destroying isn't anything that they feel any ownership towards.
The morning after, hundreds of businesses had been destroyed and millions of pounds of damage caused in one night of rioting.
If someone steals money, they've got something for it. Our building was just burnt to the ground and nobody got anything. All people got was distressed, unhappy, and a load of aggravation. If someone could explain it to me, I'd be very interesting to hear from them, but I don't understand why someone wants to do it. It's just stupid.
I think what needs to be understood here is there's no rationale involved. People say, well, I don't even know what happened to me. I don't even know what I said. I don't even know what I did. It was a complete frenzy.
I'm angry at the children who were out there targeting innocent people in their homes and the civilians and burning up cars, and you're not rioting, you're just looting. Those are the people I'm really angry at because they've messed up the whole message. It could have been something so powerful to change this sense of anger that's going around the city that maybe it could have done something. But now all we talk about is kids looting rather than the fact that that guy got killed by the police. Nobody talks about that. So yeah, it was just a crying shame.
Falling out with the people next door is pretty normal. Last year, councils across the UK dealt with over 500,000 calls about nuisance neighbours.
Go back there, man. I can't get it all in. Ah, she's come.
Your home is your castle, and therefore it makes sense that if somebody threatens that in any way, you want to retaliate because you feel that it's the only place in the world where you are entirely safe.
Yeah, man.
It's totally wrong of somebody else to feel that they have a right to invade your space. But obviously, not everybody feels that way.
I can't call the police. I'm recording it. What's happening, Sue?
Settling into a new neighbourhood can often be problematic. But when Jason Smith moved house with his wife and newborn daughter to be nearer to her parents, he had problems with his neighbours almost from the start.
Basically, I was an outsider. So if you're not known and you're an outsider, then you're going to get picked on. We'd had that many incidents with the local youths. Even ended up with one window being smashed because a brick got put through it, and the glass went all over the pram.
At the point where Jason felt things couldn't possibly get any worse, a local man came round to his house to confront him face to face.
He kicked my door in.
What?
He was shouting and bawling a load of, well, nonsense, really.
The aggressive man saw himself as the boss of the estate, and he hadn't taken kindly to the newcomer.
Kept saying, you know, I think that I'm the big man and that I'm in charge of this area. I'm going, what are you talking about? I says, I don't think that at all. Then he's going, well, you know who I am. I was going, no, who are you? Because, I mean, I'd never heard of the guy. I'd never even seen him before up until that day.
Jason, he's new there. He's new blood to a degree. So he becomes an immediate challenge. We've got to put this new guy in his place. And when we've put him in his place, he'll know who's in charge here.
But what Jason's assailant didn't know is that he was taking on a man with a particular set of skills.
I'm a martial artist, ex-soldier. I was a bodyguard. I'm used to violence, and I'm used to people being violent towards me. I'm not an expert, but I can handle myself.
Coming up, the moment Jason's patience ran out.
You can push me and push me, but when you start threatening my family, that's a whole different ballgame.
Plus the people who are furious about fly tipping.
It's not like being in England anymore. It is like living in a third world country.
Leon.
How man's best friend drives us mad.
Listen to me, please, now.
And a dispute over dog dirt.
I'm cautioning you, you don't have to say anything, but mere harm in defence, you do not mention even cussing something which you later line for. Anything you do say, maybe give me evidence.
Jason Smith and his family moved into an estate on Merseyside, but were soon targeted by local hoodlums. Things came to a head when the self-proclaimed leader of the estate came round to confront Jason. He thought he was picking on a soft target, but he hadn't done his research.
I'm a martial artist, ex-soldier. I was a bodyguard. I'm not an expert, but I can handle myself.
And with his years of experience and training, Jason knew the best way of dealing with the thug was to stay calm.
If I'm having to come to blows with someone, then I've not done what I've been trained to do, which is to diffuse the situation, not antagonise the person more.
Jason is consistently in a defence pose. So he's aware of where his hands are, he's checking out where his opponent's hands are, and he's monitoring the situation consistently. That should have given him a message. Unfortunately, he translates it incorrectly. He doesn't see it as strength and defence, he sees it as cowardice.
All his threats at that point were to me. Then he turned his attention to my family. You can push me and push me and push me all day long, but when you start threatening my family, that's a whole different ball game. So that was when I decided that, right, that's how you want to play it, fine.
We have a man who's trained in martial arts with a history in the forces. He knows exactly what to do in these situations, and he's not willing to collude with it, he's not willing to get involved in it, but he will protect his family and he will defend his territory.
Eventually he did swing for me. So, in fact, he swung 3 times. You see me blocking. But I realised I was on uneven ground and I needed a firm base. I moved back till I was standing on the concrete. And then as he came forward, it was just a case of, right, think. And it's that shocked look on his face and him scuttling backwards, realising, whoa, hang on a second, well, I didn't even see it coming.
And even though the incident was traumatic for Jason and his family, it did have a happy ending.
After that, I seemed to suddenly go from being the hated person of that estate to suddenly having a lot of respect. We moved not long after that into the property we're in now. In a way, he actually did us a favour, because after that, and because of that, we ended up getting an emergency move.
Now he's moved away, Jason almost feels sorry for the man who tried to attack him.
He was trying to show that he was the big cheese when he wasn't. You know, you need to be comfortable with yourself first, and by being comfortable with yourself and respecting others, you won't have all this anger and this hatred.
They may be man's best friend, but the mess made by mucky mutts is one of the things that makes us angriest.
People who don't clean after their dogs, I think, are a disgrace.
Dirty dog mess is a hot topic on the net.
So this is the journey my children have to make to and from school, and it shouldn't be for anybody to clean up but the dog owners. But the dog owners can't be trusted because they're revolting people.
People who let their dogs foul the pavement should have the poop posted through their letterbox.
And there's more
Each year, councils clear up over 700,000 tonnes of dog waste.
I think if you're going to let dogs poo on my street, I'm going to come around and poo on your street. And you won't like that, mate.
And it's not just a problem here in the UK.
Мужчина! Мужчина!
This woman in Russia got so angry about a man not clearing up after his pooch
А ты дерьмо убери!
that she decided to get revenge in a very mucky manner.
Лен, ты что делаешь? Лен!
Back in the UK, Mike Wallace doesn't go quite as far as that. He is Derby's dog poo destroyer, a man on the hunt for canine waste.
Here you go. It's just an absolute disgrace.
Doggy discharge makes him really angry.
It's absolutely bloody appalling, it is. It's beyond words. You can't find words as to how you feel when you see things like that. It just makes your blood boil.
Every day, Mike patrols his local streets and park.
Watch it. Yeah.
Clearing up after other people's messy mutts.
It's disgusting. The problem is, watch it. See?
Dog owners that let their dogs just crap everywhere. They're irresponsible, and I don't think they deserve to be dog owners.
But the dog must have been mighty relieved when he got rid of this.
Dog handlers that let their dogs shit everywhere are really annoying. They pretend to walk around with a bag, but they tend not to pick it up if nobody's looking.
We try and catch people, but the problem is that you have to see the dog actually doing its business. More evidence. Around this particular area, there are dog bins, there are waste bins. There's no excuse. Oh, by God, I didn't see that.
You're required to provide your detail now.
I'm required to give my details to you, not now.
You can't provide a detail after a day.
Dog poo can be a problem even when it doesn't exist, as in this case, where a council official is trying to give a fine to a dog owner for a neglected deposit she claims isn't hers.
No, madam, listen to me please now.
She wants to see where the offence has been committed, and then she'll give her details.
I'm actually trying to remove the dog poo that this man won't allow me to.
Please,
The poo patrolman isn't giving up though, and he decides to bring down the full power of the law upon her.
Okay, you don't have to say anything, but mere harm defence. If you do not mention even question something, we should later line in court. Anything you do say, maybe give me evidence.
What we see is two people desperately trying to remain civil, desperately trying to remain reasonable, but struggling to see the other's point of view.
She's going to pick the dog poo up.
You have committed an offence. No, madam, you have committed an offence.
But there's a problem. There's no sign of the wayward waste.
I think the woman is doing brilliantly not losing her temper in front of the official, because she is desperate to go back to what we could call the scene of the crime, in many ways to check that there really is a crime, but his resistance is making it very difficult for her.
Where's this poo? This is a joke. This is a joke.
I would like to pick up the poo that you say that my dog is responsible for, even though I do not believe that my dog is responsible for it. But you are refusing to show me where it is.
I need to record the details on the book.
Okay, I'm happy to. Do you show me the poo?
What's your first name, madam?
Show us the poo.
Much talking and searching later, there's still no sign
Can you show us the poo?
of the mystery muck.
Do you think there's even a poo? I feel like there isn't even a poo.
No, there isn't. What dog feces? He can't even show me there's a dog feces.
She's failing to comply with
This man is a liar.
They're both really insistent that they're both in the right, and neither side is going to give an inch.
When this goes to court, sir, I think you're going to look quite foolish.
Despite the police being called, no charges were brought against the dog owner, and the hunt for the elusive discharge continues.
Well, get the bag out, I think.
In Derby, Mike Wallace doesn't struggle to find faeces. In fact, he uncovers far too much of it.
Yeah, this is where it gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Mike regularly confronts errant dog owners and often gets an angry response.
The vast majority of it, you get nothing but abuse. Total abuse. I think one of the most colourful exchanges I had with him was with an elderly gentleman. I went up to him and I said, would you mind picking it up? And for about 2 minutes, it was the most appalling language I've ever heard, to be perfectly honest.
Despite all the obstacles in his path, Mike won't stop until people start making their pooches number 2s their number 1 priority.
I just wish I could get hold of them, I really do, and just string them up by their privates would be something that I would enjoy doing. I really would. Hiya, are you all right?
It may not be quite as unpleasant as dog muck, but where we put our rubbish is something which often causes neighbours to fall out with each other. And when waste is just dumped on the streets, it can be a massive anger trigger.
It's just left, stinking, absolutely disgusting, just unacceptable.
Each year, councils receive over 100,000 complaints about rubbish and the problems it causes.
Are you following me?
See where you live, you're dumping all the rubbish there?
So, that's a rubbish place.
It's not, it's recycling.
When I see people coming out of a McDonald's, having a scoff in the car and chucking all the bags out the windows, I think it's just disgusting.
Dawn G feels the same. She got so furious with people dumping rubbish in Normanton in Derby, she decided to do something about it.
Hello there. Hi. Are these your bins just?
No.
It's got your number of the house on. It's got. Would you like to show me which bins are yours? Okay, because we're doing a campaign about rubbish on the streets. People are fed up having rubbish on the streets.
Every week, Angry Dawn and her team of volunteers patrol the streets, documenting and clearing up the rubbish they find dumped there.
Dirty nappies. Do you know, I mean, there's absolutely no excuse. Who, in the right minds, would put dirty nappies on the street? I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. There's no excuse for this at all. It's absolutely fuming, absolutely fuming. You're observing kids playing on the street amongst dirty nappies. It's not acceptable. People need to be prosecuted.
While dumped rubbish might not seem to be a massive problem, it has a major effect on local residents.
He's saying that he's getting mice in his house and everything and droppings because of the waste and everything.
If this had been addressed when it first started, the problem wouldn't be there now. And many families wouldn't have moved because of it, because that's what's happened. It's as bad as that. It's really affected people's lives so much that they've actually sold up and moved on. Right.
In the 4 years they've been patrolling, the team have found nearly everything. But this discovery is nasty, even by their standards.
God, it stinks. What on earth is in there? Oh! We need to know what it is, though, to be able to report it. It's chicken carcasses. Oh.
If it isn't our rubbish, then of course it's going to upset us. And also, it plays against your own beliefs. So undoubtedly, if somebody is doing that, they don't care about you reacting, but you are going to react.
Until the streets are clean of litter, Dawn and her team won't rest.
This isn't just a bit of fly tipping. It's not like being in England anymore. It is like living in a third world country. Well, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
It's fair to say that dumped rubbish makes us cross, but we don't all display our anger about it in the same way Dawn does.
Two guys here arguing over what rubbish should be on what side of the road. Should it be outside his house or should it be outside my house? Absolute classic.
What we see is that they're not talking to each other, they're not even acknowledging each other. This is passive-aggressive behaviour. They're both furious, but it's only coming out in their behaviour. It's not really fair to say that it's classic British behaviour, because passive-aggressive behaviour exists amongst all human beings. But certainly in terms of a classic British reserve, where people don't acknowledge each other or reveal their emotions too much, that's very British.
This has been going on for about 30 minutes.
Behaving in such a passive way isn't necessarily better than letting your emotions out, not least because things can fester for longer. This footage is a classic example of how you can be furious about something but not ranting and raving.
Still to come, victims of the UK's biggest floods.
Angry doesn't start. Angry doesn't come near it.
And the woman who took on David Cameron.
I don't think I've ever been so angry, upset, hurt, all kind of rolled into one.
Okay. All right, but nice to see you. Thank you.
In angry Britain, and our neighbours are making us mad.
Terrible, man.
We've already seen how furious people get when defending their driveways. How they deal with dog poo.
Лен, ты что делаешь? Лен!
And how to handle a troublesome neighbour. But now we look at how people react when their property and possessions are destroyed.
Angry doesn't start. Angry doesn't come near it.
Last winter, Britain faced some of the worst weather in its history. Heavy rain and high tides caused flooding across the country, causing nearly £1 billion worth of damage and making thousands of people homeless. People's sense of helplessness in the face of destruction led to huge levels of stress and anger.
When it comes to natural disasters, people feel absolutely powerless, helpless, hopeless, inadequate. And usually that's a trigger for anger. Now, who exactly is it that I'm going to be angry with? The weather? God? The climate?
Erica Oliveira had her home destroyed by the floods. And while she couldn't have a go at the man up high, she did manage to talk to someone almost as important.
All of a sudden there was this big commotion outside and my husband had just pulled up in the car and I said, well, what's going on out there? Why is there so much noise all of a sudden? He said, well, David Cameron's over there. And I said, well, what does he want? He said, I don't know. And I just saw him standing there with all these people around him. You know, the police, the council, the emergency service were all scrubbed up, all nice and clean. They were everywhere. Where were they when we needed them? And that was why when I saw him, I just saw red. I just told him, I'm sorry, but I was angry, I felt abandoned.
Have the council been round since? Because now obviously...
Right. I just walked out and he didn't even have a chance to say anything to me. As far as I can remember, all I said was, I felt abandoned. We feel like nobody was here to help us. The rest of it isn't a fuzz. I cannot tell you all the rest of it.
But I'll get on to the council. Because obviously the next thing is you've got a lot of furniture that you need to throw out, and carpets and stuff like that. Perhaps I can come and have a look at that, then I can tell the council about it.
He said, OK, I'll come over and see you. I said, well, I don't just want that. The village needs help and we need help now.
Council about it. But I'm going to see the post office first, OK? All right, but nice to see you. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever been so angry, upset, hurt, all kind of rolled into one.
Understandably, the woman who has had her home flooded is animated. She wants answers.
Okay. But I'll get on to the council. Because obviously the next thing is you've got a lot of furniture that you need to throw out, and carpets and stuff like that.
Cameron plays a really good game here. He listens to her, and that's something that she is clearly saying has not happened. And secondly, he suggests that on hearing what she said, he can do something constructive about it. So he disarms her with his listening skills and then he suggests help, which is what she's looking for. It's a clever way of both being diplomatic and getting absolutely nothing done, but placating the individual who's upset.
Perhaps I can come and have a look at that, then I can tell the council about it.
Obviously, in this situation, David looks like the knight in shining armour, doesn't he?
But I'm going to see the post office first, OK? All right, but nice to see you. Thank you.
If I was to see David Cameron right now, I say, where's the help? You said money was no object. I haven't seen that. That's what I'd say to him.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
When disasters actually occur, which could have been avoided, it's at that point where they feel that their anger is justified, and then, of course, they're in this opportunity to vent.
One of the places hit hardest by the floods were the Somerset Levels. At the height of the floods, nearly a quarter of this 170,000 acre area was underwater. A massive pumping operation cleared most of the water, but people in the Levels villages of Fordgate and Moorland were left to mop up. Former Army Major Mark Corthine's house was decimated by the floods.
Good grief.
But February 2014 wasn't the first time it had happened. The house was also flooded the year before.
We were supposed to come back from Australia on the 4th of February, and of course the 4th is when it all came in, you know, big start.
Angry doesn't start. Angry doesn't come near it. I've got my wife who doesn't want to live here. My neighbours don't want to come back. I'm just angry to have lost probably 8 months of this year, 4 months of last, but I'm not on my own. There's 140 homes in the same devastated state as this. Some people are going to be out for a year.
The water's now subsided, but Mark's anger hasn't. His house is a long way from being habitable, and his possessions are ruined.
This is where I lost most of my memorabilia, plaques and pictures, and they've all just sort of melted away, really. Any colour photograph has just turned to mush. These are terrible, aren't they? Not good. These are pretty shot, I'm afraid, goodness.
Having lost so much in the floods, Mark's motivation is to make sure it never happens again. And he thinks dredging the rivers is the solution.
No one has ever flooded like this before, so there's got to be a logical reason for it. I personally know what that reason is. You know, mismanagement at the highest level for 25 years. Gentlemen, good day. What are you doing?
We're doing some survey work for the Environment Agency.
Are you? Is it all about dredging?
It is all about
You
dredging.
do it great, sir. Thank you. Long may it last. Thank
Right
you.
on.
Thank you very much. I know of so many families who are beside themselves, and I don't think very many have confidence and it's not going to happen again.